The beginning of the film is a scene at the pyramids, Egypt. Tourists are watching the wonder of this ancient world and taking photos together. A naughty boy with his plane runs up to the wooden rig to play, carelessly falling down. Everyone was extremely surprised and worried about his safety, but did not expect him to fall on the pyramid and sink like a giant rubber ball, then knocked the boy away. It turns out that these pyramids are all made from rubber balls, because the theft of World Heritage sites is taking place very fiercely. Governments always send military forces to guard the wonders of their countries. From the Eiffel Tower to the Great Wall, are extremely strictly guarded. Anything approaching was shot down mercilessly. The male lead Gru is walking down the street when he meets a boy who is upset about dropping his ice cream stick. He kindly gave the boy a dog with balloons. The boy happily hugged the balloon when he pierced it with a needle. To the boy's surprise, that was who he really was. He walked into the store, saw a large number of people waiting in line, took out his gun and froze them all, then took someone else's drink and left. Gru's car is just as strange as his. Everything about him scares people. Even the dog has fur and teeth like no other. He was at his house when the bell rang. He took an iron rod to see who was at the door. It turned out to be just the adorable little girl from the orphanage who was selling candy. He pretended to be a robot that automatically chased the three girls away. Then take the elevator to his secret basement. Here, there are hundreds of minions working, but doing it is the main play. Then they gather to greet Gru very warmly. He stands on the stage, boldly presenting his criminal plans. First stealing the Statue of Liberty, then the Eiffel Tower, but unfortunately those are just models. He is hatching an earth-shattering strait that makes the whole world know him, which is to steal the moon. To do that, it is first necessary to steal the miniature gun device to everything to be able to easily implement the plan. Meanwhile, the three children returned all day selling candy tired. Today also earned quite a lot, so the landlady did not make it difficult, was not locked in a box like this child. Gru called to inform his mother of the bold plan. His mother was also extremely excited, although old, but throwing a kick could still make the young man standing next to him splash away. Gru goes to a bank. He does not go inside but goes straight to the toilet. There is a secret entrance. Inside is the office of the evil bank. He came here to borrow money to carry out his plan. While waiting for his turn to work, a small, bespectacled guy named Vector came to get acquainted and constantly rambled about the trot missions he had done in the past. When it was finally his turn, Vector stepped inside to meet the banker. The director refused his request for a loan because of his recent failed missions, telling him that when he got his miniature gun, he wouldn't think about getting the money. He also said that it was Vector who expertly stole the Egyptian pyramids. Annoyed, Gru even fired a shot that made Vector's head freeze in disgust. At a secret base, a miniature gun is being tested on a large elephant, and after one shot, the elephant weighing several tons is suddenly transformed into a tiny rat running around next to bananas on the table. At this time, the ceiling is suddenly drilled. Gru and two other minions appear and steal the gun to the helplessness of the military soldiers in the base. Boarding the plane and quickly leaving, on the way back they were all extremely excited about getting valuable loot when suddenly the Vector appeared and took the gun away, not accepting to be skimmed on the hand. Gru accelerated the plane and chased after Vector. An aerial chase war broke out. Gru repeatedly fires colorful missiles to shoot down Vector's plane, but Vector then fires multiple flares to intercept Gru's missile exploding in mid-sky. Vector suddenly stood on the roof of the plane, holding a miniature gun, and fired directly at Gru's plane. Suddenly it became as small as a mini flying device. Fortunately there was still enough room for Gru and the two minions to return. Gru refuses to accept defeat and goes to Vector's base, which is quite large and monumental. There is also a pyramid being placed in it. Gru immediately dropped the binocular-mounted device to observe inside. Very quickly the Vector detected and shot it down. Gru decides to go inside, but is just getting his hands on scouting when he gets a punch from Vector's defenses. Gru continued to jump on the wall when he was attacked and fell down, not being crushed by the wall when he was eaten by a shark. Then there is the official greeting of Vector when dozens of laser guns are pointed at Gru and shoot mercilessly. Gru eats some missiles. The person is black as coal. Suddenly he sees three girls selling candy also come here. Vector, after knowing there is peanut candy, let the three girls inside. Gru immediately came up with the idea of training a group of new candy sellers to go inside and get a miniature gun for him. He then calls Minion to create a dozen candy-shaped robots, and then goes to an orphanage to adopt the children there. Minions because of disagreement, so the design file is full of miscellaneous things. Gru uses 3 inches of his tongue to convince the manager, who is overjoyed that he has finally been adopted. But when he saw Gru's expression, his attitude changed. The Vector on this side got the miniature gun. He also brought it out. He turned the toilet bowl to shrink. Joe Mine approached and blew it away, leaving only the stream of water to shoot directly into his face. The 3 children were also taken home by Gru, but were quite scared because the house was full of dangerous weapons. Even the hideous dog did not welcome their arrival. He was about to attack when Gru stopped him. A little girl wanted to go and hug him when he ran away. The little girl on ES ran into a box full of spikes, then closed the door. Gru hurriedly walked over, but there was already a red liquid flowing out. The 2 little girls outside frightenedly hugged each other. ES inside was still awake. It turned out to be strawberry milk. The 3 girls weren't the type to constantly wreak havoc that made Gru hot-eyed, threaten all sorts of things. Below, the minions are still working very hard. Dr. Nephari starts a bunch of robots that can dance to the music, and the minions dance along excitedly. But Gru isn't happy because he wants an army of cookies. Above the 3 naughty children who accidentally pressed the button to start the coal, they immediately stepped inside and the elevator went down to the basement. Meanwhile, a minion is taking a drug that makes his body seem to be high and soars into the air, flying straight to the roof of the basement. The doctor wields a rotten gun and fires a shot, rendering the minion motionless on the spot. But Gru wanted a dart gun, and he eventually made the biscuit robots as Gru requested. He finds 3 naughty children in the basement. Gru shoots her doll with a laser gun. The other 2 cry loudly, causing Gru to promise to compensate with a unicorn, then order the minions to make a unicorn for her. There are 3 minions dressed as a family going to the supermarket, but they are all vandalism. One breaks bottles of soft drinks, one sings karaoke, the other relaxes in a very comfortable massage chair. After getting home, the 3 girls and 2 other minions messed around rummaging the whole house, causing Gru to immediately make them go to bed. Before falling asleep, the children wanted Gru to tell him a story, but he just bared his teeth and laughed and left. There are 3 minions who come over and give her a homemade unicorn with a toilet brush. The next morning, Gru tries to give the 3 girls to work, but the children say they have to go to class, and Gru reluctantly follows. The girl insists that Gru accompany her to the dance performance, and hooks hands with Gru, making the sisters sitting next to her admire the reluctant father's affection. Then Gru starts his plan. The 3 girls manage to get inside Vector's house with a bag of robot cookies. When Vector doesn't notice the robots start working, quickly decrypt the passwords and disable the camera. A door is cut out in the room, cutting the miniature gun. Gru and the 2 minions jumped into pose. Before they could bring their guns out, the inanimate robots blocked the door. Gru and the 2 minions had to escape from another road. Just came out when they encountered Vector. Luckily, all 3 quickly escaped into the ventilation hole and the barn exited by that way. He was about to get outside when a minion fell downwards, dragging Gru miserably, clinging to each other, not being able to stand it long when finally the dropped gun hit Vector in the head. All 3 of them, when he was not about to regain it, quickly left, so the mission to steal the gun was successful. On the way home, the 3 children want to be taken by Gru to the park to play. Gru intends to leave the 3 children here and leave. However, if the children want to get inside, they must be accompanied by an adult. Gru has to accompany them. The youngest girl asks for a beautiful pink unicorn. He also spends money for the children to play shooting, but they shoot quite badly, shooting forever and finally hit the target. But the employee said that the target must fall to count as victory. Gru angrily bought another round of play. Then he took out his huge super big gun, fired one shot that blew the whole light away. The 3 children saw that and celebrated very carefreely. The 4 of them returned home when the doctor said he had rushed to let him know that there was something to do, not just to play all day with the kids. Gru quickly calls the banker to inform him that he has obtained the gun, and fires a miniature shot of a minute as evidence, followed by a detailed account of his plan, but the director still refuses to lend him money. Because he has a grudge against Gru. Gru recalls that when he was young, his mother was always indifferent to his inventions. The director concluded that Gru has almost no potential to grow anymore. Today there are many other players who are much younger than him. Gru enters the tunnel to inform the minions that the plan to steal the moon will be cancelled because they cannot borrow money. The minions find it extremely disappointing. The youngest daughter proceeds to give Gru a piggy bank, in which there are only a few odd silver coins. The minions also join hands to donate their most precious things to help. Gru said that if the bank didn't give us the money, we would build our own rocket. The plan was methodical and the blueprints were drawn up. and the doctor was working hard to build the perfect rocket. But another problem was that the date of the mission coincided with the day the children entered the competition. Meanwhile, the director learns that Gru got the gun from his son Vector, and he deliberately refuses to lend Gru money because he doesn't want him to carry out his plan. Because he wanted Vector to be the one to implement this bold idea. The sinister Vector takes out an ink gun and declares the moon will be theirs. That night the kids wanted Gru to tell us a story. He was happy to tell the kids, but he didn't tell the whole story that they were all asleep on Gru's shoulders. The doctor constantly reminds him to know what his real job is. The next morning the nursery manager came to give Gru a hit and pick up the kids. It turned out that the doctor called her and told her everything, so Gru had to part ways with his 3 children. Now that Gru is able to carry out his plan, he wears a pink astronaut suit to remember the children and the scene when he was a child looking up at the moon. Gru stepped into the capsule, and the doctor started the rocket. The rocket that was started was flying when Vector fired the ink gun and then flew up to threaten Gru. Gru started the electric shock. He fell downwards. He crashed into the electricity pole and continued to be electrocuted. The rocket flew straight into the air at a very fast speed, flying past a minion out of nowhere. After reaching the required height, the rocket split into different parts. Gru's small ship finally lands on the surface of the moon. He immediately fires miniature guns at the surface. Instantly the moon is shrunk. At this time on Earth, the waves of the sea gradually disappeared. Werewolves also quickly returned to ordinary people. Gru is delighted when he sees the children's ticket to the dance performance, at which point the minion suddenly returns to its original form. Gru couldn't break his promise to the children and turned the spacecraft straight to Earth at the speed of light. Soon arrived at the door of the theater, but unfortunately the show was over. Suddenly he read a message. It turned out that Vector had taken the 3 children. The 3-legged, 4-legged Gru runs to his house. Vector inside asks Gru to hand over the moon before releasing the children. Gru gives the moon he has hard-earned to him, but the flipped Vector doesn't want to give the 3 babies back. Gru angrily decides to fight a battle with Vector. Vector was quite frightened and fired several missiles at Gru, but the warm fatherhood that arose made Gru unusually agile, easily maneuvering through the rain of missiles. Gru stepped in gently, punching the shark that had bitten him the day before. Vector frightened the runaway spacecraft. Gru bravely jumped up and clung to the spacecraft, but after a while he fell down, thankfully falling into the other spaceship the doctor had piloted to assist him. The doctor informs Gru of the important news that the larger the object, the faster the effects of the miniature gun will expire. At this time, the moon inside the Vector spacecraft has also gradually enlarged, causing it to tilt to one side. At this time, Gru's spaceship also approached Vector's spaceship. Gru stood below asking the 3 children to bravely jump down. He would catch them. The first 2 jumped down and succeeded in escaping, although only the eldest sister jumped last and was caught by the Vector. While struggling, the big moon pushed the 2 down. Luckily the eldest sister managed to grab the rope. Gru rushed to save the baby, but because the rope was too thin, it broke, causing Gru and the baby to fall down. During the emergency, the minions held hands, forming a minion rope that caught Gru and the baby. At this time, the moon is getting bigger and bigger, destroying Vector's spacecraft, dragging him into space. Vector ends up stranded on the moon without knowing the date of his return. The media kept reporting that the moon had finally returned and wondered who was the hero who brought the moon back. On this side, Gru officially welcomed the 3 children home to take care of, with the responsibility and affection of a true father. The minions saw him kissing the children on the forehead, so he had to kiss the minions one by one. At the end of the film, Gru and his mother go to watch the performance of his 3 young daughters, flanked by the minions on the duty of sound and light support. Extremely exciting. The drama here is the end. Thank you for your interest in watching. If you see it, or please let me ask for a like and press the follow button. See you in the next episodes.